Right, I'm going to say it again. Gambling is not a financial issue. Gambling is a life issue, it's a psychological issue, it's a behavioural issue, but it does have financial issues that occur off the back of a gambling addiction. Of course it does. It's one of the only outward signs that someone has a gambling addiction is their relationship with money and the fact that most of the time they haven't bloody got any. So that's what I want to talk about today. This is actually a follow-up, a part 2, if you will, to a video I made a little while ago about my relationship with money and how I had a terrible relationship with money, even to this day, which was all built on the foundations of a long-lasting gambling addiction. If you haven't watched that video already, I'll either leave a link to it or put it on a card or do one of those YouTubery things, right? But I will quickly summarise, in a minute or less, with a bit of luck, the content of that video. Basically, I spoke about how when you're in the midst of a gambling addiction, money is not treated in the same way that normal, non-addicted people would treat money. We are unable to spend on normal, regular, everyday things because we view money as a means by which to satisfy our gambling urge, a means by which to placate our addiction. Basically, money is no longer money, it is gambling tokens. That is the essence of that. And a lot of people from the comments seem to be on board with that message. A lot of people shared stories about the things they tried to buy but ended up not spending 50 quid on a new pair of trainers, instead spending 500 quid in the bookies next door to the shop where they were going to go and buy the trainers in the first place. And these all rang very, very true with me. Like I say, the problem is that this doesn't go away once you get into recovery. I expected the feeling to fade, and to some extent I guess it did. Alright, but I still struggle to deal with money like, dare I say, a normal human being. So I want to make a bit of a follow-up, a bit of a part 2, talking about the longer term effects and actually how we can somehow mitigate the problems we have with our financial relationship after we get into recovery. Firstly, I just want to say hi, hope you're keeping safe, hope you're keeping sane, hope the rain on the conservatory roof is not doing your head in as much as it's doing mine in. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel, like, subscribe, share, do all that YouTubery stuff. If you choose to support me via my Patreon, there will be a link in the description below, and that helps me make more videos, it helps me reach more people outside of YouTube, and it helps me dedicate more time to this cause, which obviously, as you can imagine, I feel quite strongly about. So, once we get into gambling recovery, we still struggle with our financial relationships. Now, it might be partly because we have to actually take stock of the financial situation we're in, and we have to try and work to redress any financial damage that we've historically done, i.e. we have to actually look at what money we owe in terms of loans, credit cards, all the rest of it, and we actually have to put something in place in order to pay them bloody things back. Maybe we've borrowed money from friends and we need to go to them and talk to them and arrange to pay them back. Alright, so your financial relationships are all over the place. Suddenly, basically, it's like opening Pandora's box. You know, all the time that you're gambling, you know, you in a transient way know how much money you've lost and you know the damage you're doing, but you don't take stock of it because you just pile it in there, stuff it all in, forget about it, bury your head in the sand. Okay, and one of the hardest things about getting into recovery is you have to open Pandora's box, let everything fall out and actually take stock of the situation you're in. So your relationship's going to be bad from the get-go. Plus, this inability to spend money like a normal human being doesn't come back straight away. So even when you start to get some disposable income, even when you start to actually be able to spend like, dare I say again, a normal human being, we still really, really struggle with it because we're so attached to the idea that that money is simply gambling tokens, it just means to an end, and that end is placating our addiction. It takes forever to get back to a point of being able to treat money in a normal way. But when you do take stock of your debts, when you do take stock of your liabilities, and you do start to build a better financial future for yourself, there will be another problem that arises, and this is the basis of this video. Once you get out of debt, or you get your debts to a point where you're paying an affordable monthly payment back to each of your creditors, and I've spoken about managing gambling debt in previous videos, then you might find you start having disposable income back in. You start having money come back in which is not already attributed to paying out to XYZ. This is just as dangerous, and the reason this is dangerous is because we haven't had the practice, we haven't had the same experience of managing spare money, of saving, of investing, or of putting financial targets in place for ourselves that other people may have had. It's really, really important, and this is coming off the back of my experience, that if we do start to find we actually have money in our accounts at the end of the month, or we actually have a few quid in our wallets, that we make a plan for that money. Most people, most non-addicted gambling people, would put it in a savings account or invest it or do something very smart with it. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I won't advise you on investments, believe it or not. But if we don't think about where we would like to be financially, if we don't think about and actually make a plan for what we'd like to do we want to go on holiday? Do we want to get a new car? Do we want to buy some new trainers that we've failed miserably on multiple attempts to buy? We need to think where this money is going to go. And we need to think, I believe, quite specifically, and this is something I try and do. Okay, so say I decide I want to go on holiday. All right. Now, thinking of, I just want to go on holiday, so I need to save some money, isn't enough for me. Okay, I need to think, right, let's go on the computer, let's look at holidays, let's find where I'd like to go, when I'd like to go, where I'd like to stay, what I'd like to do, how much the whole thing's going to cost. And then I know, once I've boiled it down to exactly what I want to spend the money on, I know how much money I need. So therefore the money that I've then got coming in, which otherwise doesn't have a set purpose, which is a pretty alien concept, suddenly I know where that needs to go, where I need to put that, where I need to save it. And dare I say, even to this day, that money is often put with someone else in order to keep it safe. The problem being, if we don't have specific goals, if we don't have specific targets, if we don't have these real fine details of where this money needs to end up, then ultimately it sits there and it doesn't feel like it has any greater value than the gambling tokens of old. If it's just sat there and it's not doing anything, it's not doing anything for us, it's not giving us any pleasure, it's not yielding any return from an investment or whatever, if it's just sat there, then it may as well just be lost gambling tokens because it's not achieving anything. So if you want to buy a new car, right, you think, oh, now I'm getting a bit of money and maybe I'll get a new car. Well, think, what car do I need to get? How much is that going to cost me? Either monthly or, as a straight out purchase. And then decide that, okay, I need X amount. And then when the money comes in, you know that X amount is part of that. You know that money is part of that X amount that you need to save or that you need to spend out each month on your lease or whatever it is. If you want to buy something small, if it's like a new pair of jeans, okay, don't think, oh, actually, now I've got some money, I can treat myself to some new clothes. No, think, all right, go on, I don't know, whatever your online shop of choice is, or, I'm going to say flannels because it's the only one that comes into my head, but trust me, I'm not that wealthy. And you think, look at these jeans, they're like 150 quid, which is extravagant, I wouldn't spend that much. But anyway, by the by, right, you see these jeans, 150 quid. So next time you have 50 quid in your wallet, you think, right, okay, that's cool. I'll put that towards the jeans. Next time I get £100 come in, then that'll finish that off and I can go and buy that thing. It's terrible. It feels a bit like when you're a student and you've got meal plans, all right? I'm setting pots here, there and everywhere, setting little financial goals. But it gives the money that you have coming in, once you get into a lasting recovery and you start to see a little bit of money left over at the end of the month, it gives that money purpose. It gives you drive to actually keep it because it has a purpose. And before, the only purpose we know for money is as gambling tokens, is a way to exacerbate and placate at the same time our gambling addiction. I'm going to stop there because otherwise I'm going to drift into giving financial advice, which I'm rubbish at. Okay, never take the financial advice from a gambler. But I think my point is this, and I've probably repeated myself several times over because I'm very forgetful when it comes back to what I've already said. When you start to see some money left over at the end of the month, and it might take months, it might take years, it might take a decade. Okay, once you've satisfied your gambling debts, once you've got back into at least a relatively normal way of financially living, and you start to see a little bit of cash at the end of the month, give that money some purpose. Give it a very, very specific purpose, and that's the important point. Don't just think, oh, I'd like to have some more money so I could go on holiday. All right, because that is too vague. It's not got that. It's not going to set in stone in your head a true goal, a true target. If you can think, actually, yeah, I want to go on a holiday to Benidorm. All right, let's go Faliraki, because I talked about Faliraki in a previous video. I want to go to Faliraki. I want to go for 2 weeks, and I want to stay there. And I'm going to probably spend this much on food out. I'm going to spend this much on my beer. I'm going to go all inclusive, whatever, right? And you plan it out, and you go, right, that's going to cost me X amount. Then every bit of money you have is a proportional part of that X amount. And you also have a vision in mind. You know what it's going to be like there at Dave's Fun Pub in Faliraki, and you can picture yourself having a great time, getting the free shots and the tequilas and the Jaeger bombs and the pints of watered down beer. You can picture yourself there. You can have a purpose, a reason to keep this money for something other than gambling tokens. Right, I really am going to stop there because I'm repeating myself. All right, stay safe, stay sane. Thank you to everyone who continues to support the channel. Patreon link in the description below. Anyone who signs up there, I love you forever. Take care.